Welcome to Cannabis School. I'm your host, Jesse Angeles.
And I'm Brandon Elder.
And we're here to talk to you about everything pertaining to cannabis, from vape,
flower,
edibles,
strains,
and everything in between. Oh, we're visiting with Dustin Hoxworth from Fat Nugs Magazine. Dustin, thank you so much for being here. We're very excited to have you on. Dude, let's get right into it. How did you come up with Nugs? What pushed you to that point where you're like, I'm going to release a publication about cannabis?
That's a great question. So my history with the plant dates back to when I was born, basically. I have 22 family members that are either current or former military. So as they were coming back from Vietnam, we had a ton of issues in my family, right? PTSD issues is what we would refer to it now. We didn't know it was PTSD back then, but that's what we know it is now. So weed, let's call it what it was always consumed in my family, was always smoked in my family. So it was always normalized. Yeah. So my earliest childhood memories are of my aunts and uncles and my dad and everybody just consuming. That's just what it was. I also lived with an indigenous stepfather for 9 years in St. Louis, Missouri. And he was a consumer. And let's just say I saw a plant or two around the house. I ended up putting myself through college by running pounds from Atlanta, Georgia, down to Georgia Southern University as well. So the plant has always sort of been in my life from my earliest childhood moments of seeing my family consume to putting myself through, getting my education, putting myself through college. And then I became a daily smoker in 95, or a daily consumer in 95. So again, it's been a long time that I've been around this plant. I ended up after school, after graduating college, surprisingly enough, and I actually played college volleyball as well. So even though I'm a daily consumer, I'm still extremely active. And it's one of the things that I like to focus on with this magazine is sort of punching people in the face with that term stoner and anybody that thinks there's a negative connotation to it. Because I can tell you right now that I am a fucking stoner, but I graduated from college. I am extremely active. I played college sports. I am, very creative, that kind of stuff. So I've done things in my life. So that's one of those things with this magazine that's very important to me. So anyway, after after graduating college, I ended up doing 14 years in the corporate world. Unfortunately, living that dual life, living that dual life that a lot of us live. We put on our nice clothes during the day and so that we can, come home and rip the bong at night and fucking be ourselves for once. That's kind of how I lived for a very long time. And I think a lot of us do. I think a lot of us that have been around cannabis most of our lives or since our childhood or teenage years, we realize that we're probably going to have to get like normal jobs and not be able to smoke, all the time or at all, or we'll have to go through drug tests and all that kind of shit. So yeah, I experienced all that stuff over 14 years. I did fail a drug test. I passed drug tests, all kinds of stuff. The corporate world was definitely not for me, even though I had to do it. I also learned a lot of stuff. I focused on CX, customer data, consumer insights, that kind of stuff. So customer experience. I ran a lot of really big programs for companies like Apple, Abercrombie and Fitch, Home Depot, Lowe's, CenturyLink, and the list goes on, dude. I finally got shit canned for the last time in 2018 from my last real job, right? And I ended up going into the film industry. Here in Atlanta, the film industry is huge.
Yeah, you did like the Banker and What Women Want.
Yeah. What Women Want, Banker, Godzilla vs. Kong.
Dude, that's cool.
I did a lot of cool stuff over the 4 years that I was there. I am very, very lucky and extremely privileged to have my best friend as one of the greatest filmmakers in the world. So I owe a big gratitude of debt to him for taking care of me for 4 years. Basically is what he did, was kind of show me the ins and outs of what he does and the things that are important within the industry and being a part of the film union and all of that kind of stuff. It was a really cool place to be because I was surrounded by a bunch of really fucking creative people on a daily basis. It was rad to be in those settings with a lot of people that just created things from scratch all day long. So what that did was really kind of cement a lot of the creative things that I've always done in my life. It really cemented it in place. And it told me that I need to make sure that I'm being creative on a daily basis. I've written and released 3 albums on my own. I've played in bands. I do some painting, blah, blah, blah. So I'm always looking for some sort of creative outlet. Creative dump is what I like to call it. So when the pandemic hit, I was like, well, what the hell do I do now? So I thought to myself, well, I've been around the plant my entire life. I consume this fucking thing. I know a lot about the plant. I have grown in my life. There's nothing that I haven't done, touched, talked about, discussed, consumed when it comes to the plant, period, throughout my entire life. So I said, why don't I take my knowledge into the legal side instead of always having my toes dipped into the legacy or traditional side of things? And I thought it was kind of a perfect time to do it. So really over the past, I guess it's about 9 months now, 8 or 9 months, after I'd been in the industry for a little while, I started to want to build up this network and connecting. And LinkedIn is a huge part of that, right? LinkedIn is the #1 platform that I know of that allows cannabis to exist in its purest form. We can talk about smoking, we can show smoking, we can, whatever we got to do. We can show consumption, we can talk about all the things that cannabis can do. So it was a really important thing for me to realize that LinkedIn was going to be key to me building this magazine, because that's where a lot of the decision makers live. That's where a lot of the sort of influencers, I hate to use that word, in the industry live. And I don't mean that by just an influencer. I mean people that have been around this plant for a long time, that are part of this culture, that have been a part of this culture, that have been respectful to the people that got us here. Maybe you're one of the people that got us here. Some of these people actually live on LinkedIn. That's where they operate. So I had to use LinkedIn first and foremost. And when I did that, it helped me to develop my voice even more so in the industry itself. So about 8 or 9 months ago, I started looking for a new creative dump. I'm stoned, sitting on my couch at night, just like most of us are, watching watching TV, wasting time, whatever it is I'm doing, playing with my fucking cat. And I just started to create these covers, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it was a way for me to really communicate on a larger scale to my wider network, to all of my connections at once, because one, it allowed me to be creative as hell. I could just put a bunch of cool cannabis stuff on a cover and start to create maybe some titles of things, of articles that I would want to talk about. And I released it on a Friday. And it just got a huge response. And I was like, what? I was not expecting this. This is kind of cool,
That was cool.
And the response to it was so big that I couldn't catch up to the DMs on LinkedIn. I was like, holy shit, what the fuck is going on? And people were asking me, how do I get this? Where do I read these articles? This is fucking dope as hell. All of that kind of, can you send me the magazine? And I'm like, wait, this doesn't exist.
You
this
have
is
some
not
cool
real
art. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. No, and I had to tell people when I first started this, I was like, this isn't real. This isn't a magazine. This is just a creative dump, a creative outlet for me. And so I realized after about the 3rd Friday, I call it Fat Nugs Friday. I was like, okay, that was cool. So I'm going to do it again on next Friday. Friday came, posted another one, blew up again. Next Friday came, posted another one, and it got such a large response that I had a couple of cannabis media companies approach me.
No shit.
And they were like, we would like to possibly talk to you about bringing this in-house. And I was like, bringing what in-house? This doesn't fucking exist.
Yeah.
You realize that this is not a real magazine yet. Now, this is only the 3rd week that I'd, posted something about it. So people weren't really familiar with what it was yet. And through some conversations, I ended up realizing very quickly that I needed to make this thing be real, because it fills an enormous gap that we have in this industry. And that enormous gap is something that people were telling me about. And it was really something I hadn't realized. We don't have I please excuse me, I don't mean to bash or belittle anyone's work in this industry at all. I would never do that. But from what I have been told, a lot of people believe and feel that they don't have a voice in this industry, that the culture side of things, small farmers, equity applicants, mom and pop shops, women-owned businesses, legacy and traditional owned businesses, they don't have a voice in this industry. A lot of it is run by very large companies and people that can donate to politicians to control the game, right? I think we all know that.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, well, this is perfect because my grandparents owned a farm. I came from a military family background. I've always been fucking poor. I've always been around this plant. Like, this is my community, right? This is my fucking community. These are the people that I connect with, I smoke with, I hike with, I play sports with. This is my community. So I said, okay, let's do this, and started to build the magazine from scratch right then and there. So it took me probably from the time that I first posted something, and I could be totally wrong. I think this was back in late March, early April. The very first real digital publication of Fat Nugs Magazine was released on May 6th. So that's how quickly it came about. That's how it came about. Now, the name itself, it's sort of our stoner vernacular, right? It's that's a fat sack. Those are fat joints. That's fat bud. Those are fat nugs. That's a fat blunt, you know? So it just kind of came naturally. There's a magazine called Nugs. I knew that, but there's not a magazine called Fat Nugs.
Well, there is.
There is now. There is. Exactly. There is now. So that's basically how it came about, guys. And, some of the things that we really focus on, obviously, what I said before, as much of the culture as possible, and uplifting people's voices and businesses that are doing really good things in this industry and for people. And they're focused on education and science and understanding and all of that kind of stuff. So it's trying to spread uplifting, positive messages about the plant, the people that are in this culture, and really taking cannabis and stoner culture to the rest of the world and being that bridge, and having people understand that even if you're not in the know or understand cannabis and stoner culture or what the fuck that is, when you read what is in this magazine and the things that we release, even though they might be a little educational or scientific, there's always a personal spin to those things. It's a way that we connect. How do you connect with people with cannabis on a personal level? It's not science and education, and I'm sorry to tell people that, but you can talk science and education to your next door neighbor till you're blue in the fucking face. But until you say, my mom was here yesterday, she's 75 and smoked a joint because she has back pain, no one really gives a shit. You have to be able to connect with people on a personal level. You really do. Storytelling is huge. You have to have those elements when you are releasing content in cannabis, in my view, because that's how we bring people in. That's how we win over hearts and minds, all of that positive stuff. So those are the things we focus on. And we do that by being a global perspective of cannabis culture. We have writers from all over the world: Kenya, Ireland, Scotland, Bermuda, Spain, Canada.
He's naming out the list of all of where our listeners are at.
Yeah.
There you go.
Where our demographic of listeners is.
There you go. So, we do our best to be as inclusive as possible. We have LGBTQ plus writers, black, white, red, pink, whatever fucking color you can pick. We are a part of that. And we like to have it that way. And we like to uplift the voices that really we believe people should be hearing in this space.
Yeah, when you talk about exactly what the voice of the cannabis community, one of the things that is done so much for those people that are like sitting right on the fence. I mean, we create our content 100% for consumers of cannabis, not the many other ones out there. I mean, hey, I like being a stoner, but I am a functional stoner just like you. Like, I get shit done. I'm a creative. I mean, just like when you're talking about creative dumps, I've got to have constant just stimulation, because if I stay still, I literally start getting depressed because I have nothing to do. I'm like, I can create something right now.
Yeah.
But when you are talking about being able to be the publication for the cannabis community, it goes those for the consumers, because those new people getting involved, the sometimes that, you know, that part of their mind where they're just like, I know, but society, you know, the war on drugs. We just had this interview yesterday with this awesome professional retired rugby player, this woman out of she lives
She
now
lives in
in Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Yeah, but she was from the Northeast. And I mean,
Vermont.
just, dude, like, breaking down those barriers. Like, I mean, she was a professional athlete using cannabis on the regular, and it's so cool.
Yeah, it's absolutely necessary to be able to do that these days, right? You have to be able to break down barriers, even though, and I know a lot of people that have been smoking weed for a long time sort of hate to have these conversations because it feels so uncool, right? But to have an ability to bring people in to the plant, welcome them here, make them feel comfortable, you know, break down stigmas or doors or anything else, or any hurdles or anything else that's in the way of people just understanding that the plant is just a fucking plant. It's just like it's just like broccoli. It's just like a tomato. It's just like anything you can grow. It's not going to kill you. It's never killed anyone unless a big plant falls on you and you die out in the cold.
There was the first, pardon me, there was the first death from cannabis that, and it's, hang on, let me finish this. Because when I read it, I was like, the hell, that's not a thing. But it was from a lady in a joint rolling company. And there was so much keef in the air that the masks or whatever, like, it coated her lungs, and she died from, like, basically being suffocated. But not from
that could have been
any
like
normal
sawdust or any other shit,
like
that,
anything that wasn't taken out
that
of the
could have
air
been
well enough. That should be regulated by the business. But the first, like, actual death from cannabis, but it's not like
it's not from consumption.
No.
Right.
So
and that's the worry. That's the fear. That's the fear mongering that's the reefer madness part of this, is if you consume it, oh my God, you turn into whatever. But I think for the most part, most of our country and a lot of the world, you know, as individual people, we understand, again, for the most part, the plant is not harmful. Smoking weed isn't going to kill you. It's not going to turn you into anything stupid. It's not going to, you know, we mostly understand that. It becomes this group thing when it's used in political ways, or when it's used basically in political and in, I guess, law enforcement circles, right? That's when it's used the most to sort of manipulate and mind fuck people.
But it's only on the story that's being told, because behind the closed doors, there's tons of those officials and police officers who are using cannabis all the fucking time. And it's
I know those people firsthand. I know cops firsthand who do blow, who smoke weed, who get fucking wasted and bust people for doing the same exact thing that they do. So I know I have family that, you know, are sort of in that law enforcement realm that, you know, say some stupid shit. And I think we all know that judges, lawyers, doctors, and everyone else that you can think of, down to the guy who's, you know, cutting lawns and digging holes and ditches on the side of the road, we're all cannabis consumers, period. Cannabis culture welcomes us all. But we need people to be willing to, I guess, step up and scream it a little louder, because even though, again, it's not always that cool, you know, for people like us who have been consuming the plant for a long time, I'm assuming, by the way, that
at least a week or two.
A couple of days. You know, it's not always fun or cool to have those conversations, but they are fucking necessary. You know, we have to be able to remind people that your next door neighbor who is a judge just got through rolling me a big fatty. So I think it's important.
Well, even my mom, so we had a conversation over Sunday dinner the other day, and it started by my brother and sister going, hey, their dog's like 8 and she's getting seizures. And I just was like, you should give her CBD because high dose CBD is actually one of the biggest things that helps with epileptic seizures. And she was like, really? And I'm like, yeah, and my brother's like, dogs can take CBD. And I'm like, every single mammal has an endocannabinoid system. That means that every single mammal has that system that helps their body return to homeostasis. And if they're stressed or depressed or have this pain in there that's hurting that, they're not going to return to that. And so if you can give them
feed your
CBD,
ECS. Yep.
yeah, if you can give them that CBD, it can help with these epileptic seizures. And they were like, what? That's crazy. And so and out of that conversation, my mom was like, well, this family friend that we have, her son can't work. He has so many epileptic seizures that the medications and side effects, he can't work. And she was like, can you send me something on this? And I'm like, yeah. I pulled it up in like 2 seconds. It's produced by the Epilepsy Foundation going into how CBD helps. I sent it over and I'm like, if they have questions, let me know. And it's as simple as like a basic conversation.
Yep. It's not hard.
No.
And it's not hard to find the documentation you need these days. We have 30 to 40,000 documented
studies,
either articles or studies, correct,
in the last 20, 30 years alone.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been one of the most studied things that we consume these days. So it's not hard to have those really simple conversations. It's always nice when you can put a personal face-to-face. This is my experience with it. Here is an article that will tell you about it. Yeah, it's important that we have those conversations these days. Speaking of CBD, I consume CBD on a daily basis as well. It's helped me tremendously in my life. It's taken, so I was on, oh my goodness, I was on, Xanax for probably 10 plus years. And the moment, within I would say about 4 to 6 weeks of me taking an extremely high quality, broad spectrum CBD, CBG, CBN product that I take every day, I came off of Xanax immediately, which is something you're not supposed to do at all because it can cause seizures and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So anecdotally, CBD has really, changed my life as well.
That's fantastic. It
It really does.
I take it several times a day for the inflammation and the pain in my back because while THC is a great pain management system, like it still doesn't hit those sharp pains and that I have in the middle of my back. And so using CBD multiple times a day, it allows me to still like hit both sides or multiple sides of that pain, help me function on a much better level.
Yeah, you just explained why it's so important to consume full spectrum product, right? So, or even a cultivar like Harlequin, where it's a 1-to-1. So, and that way I wouldn't have to always, mix my CBD and regular weed together,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's important, I think, for people to realize that CBD and other minor cannabinoids are just as important to consume, and to consume them on a regular basis. You're constantly feeding your ECS to keep you from being sick and to feeling off or to have back pains or any of that kind of stuff. It's important to get on a regimen. People need to be using it on a daily basis, consuming it on a daily basis.
Yeah, almost as like, I mean, I think about it a little bit more now. Like we talked about it all the time. If you get your stomach hurts or you get a headache or you got some random pain, like just come out of nowhere, achiness, you smoke the plant, it goes away. It's so incredible. And when you start getting, I mean, just like your entire life, you've tried so many different strains. And I know the idea is that, strains are kind of bullshit, but at the same time, it's a way for us to identify certain things to us as individuals going, because as much as we would like it to be just like, yeah, it's awesome, it's a great plant, we're going back in time now. now with all these different strains, we actually start thinking about the terpenes and what are the cannabinoids in each one that really start to be able to create what you're looking for.
So it's not necessarily one way or the other with this. When people say that strains or varieties or cultivars, the names, they don't necessarily mean anything. It's a yes and a no, and it depends on what it is that you're referring to, what you're talking about, all of that kind of stuff. But the most important, this is what I usually tell people, regardless of the name that you have on your bag or your bottle or your jar, or whatever you're consuming that day, you need to know, or what is great to know is the actual profile, the cannabinoid and terpene profile. And then the way, because one person's MAC may be completely different than another person's MAC on that cannabinoid and terpene profile scale, right? So that MAC, this person's MAC could completely put you to sleep, and this one could, make you stay up all night doing whatever it is you need to do. So it's all about the profile. The names, yes, they don't mean necessarily everything that we wish they did. Also, at the same time, they do mean some things. So, it's a complicated thing every once in a while, the way that we talk about the plant or refer to the plant. But I think overall, as long as we all kind of know that we're all talking about sort of the same thing, which is the cannabinoid and terpene profile. That's basically what it comes down to. No matter what strain, variety, or cultivar you're consuming, it's that profile that's going to make you as a person feel a particular way. And if you know what that profile is, you can start to hone in on those particular varieties that tend to lean that way, right? And then you can hone in on those and really get your profile that you're looking for over and over again. So
and find the cultivar that matches what it is you're looking for. Because like you said, from cultivar to cultivar, it's not necessarily the same. It's very similar, but you might have different terpenes or cannabinoids that are present just depending on the grow. So,
and it's looking at the medicine part too. I mean, it's a medicine. Wouldn't it be wonderful for most people who consider like Western medicine, pills, all those things, like that's what I have to take because that's what I've been told for years. But where you can match each of these, I mean, just like you're talking, the full profile of the plant can be able to match your ECS, and figuring that out along the way. It's like it's designer pharmaceuticals, if you will.
Yeah, and which the pharmaceutical company fucking hates, because you can actually grow your own medicine in your house to the exact specifications. If you know what that is, you can grow it that way. It's a really cool thing to be a part of, and to see this plant kind of develop and grow as much as it has over the past few years, I guess, since it became about 2014. I think Colorado was the full legalization. Buddy, come on, get off my.
Probably.
Sorry, you guys.
That's awesome. Good. No, it's all good.
My cat in the other room. So
my cat will stay in front of the camera all day,
that's
dude.
Funny.
Constantly
attention whore.
Yeah, it's kind of hilarious.
That's awesome.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
So yeah. How have you seen like cannabis use change then over the years? Because with how long you've been using cannabis since, I mean, I think you had said your first use was around 9-10 years old with the very first time you were handed a joint.
Yeah. So I think the first time that I really smoked was probably 12 years old. The first time that I was handed a joint as a kid, and my brother is 6 years older than I am. So of course, when he's in high school, he would have parties. I can remember this particular instance. I was getting passed up the stairs. My parents were out of town. I was getting passed up the stairs along with my buddy. We had just come home from the skating rink. Back in St. Louis, we did the whole skating rink thing. And it was so crowded. As they're passing me up the stairs, they're like, "Here, kid, hit this," and I'm like, "Oh, what the hell is this?" I don't think I ever really smoked it at 9 years old, but I know at 12 years old I did. Whether it did anything to me, I don't think so. But that's sort of how weed works, right? When you first start to smoke, you're like, I don't know if I'm high. I don't know if this does anything. And sometimes it doesn't do anything. And it takes your ECS a minute to kind of kick in. Sometimes you need it 2 or 3 times for your ECS to realize, oh, okay, this is the fuel that I'm supposed supposed to be using. And then so you get those feelings and get the medicated part that you're supposed to get. So I have seen the different ways that people consume, or I guess the view on consumption change since being a little kid. Really kind of in a few different ways and some weird ways that I never thought I would. So when I was young, it was very normal, right? It was everywhere for me. It was
Cannabis
not,
use.
it was not, yeah, it was not a problem because of my family, my military background family, and being sort of, I guess, poorer in St. Louis, the city that, we were just smokers. That's what we did. Not, I say we, not me. I was a kid, but my family. So it was always normalized and kind of not a big deal. Then as you get into the high school years, you're fed the, dare bullshit and all of that stuff. So obviously the look on consumption is a lot different from the time I was up until I was 11 years old. And then from 11 to 16, it was like, oh my God, it's the devil's lettuce, right? That's kind of when they start pumping you full of that shit. Or at least that's when I realized it. And maybe it was because I moved from St. Louis down to Atlanta, Georgia. And maybe that was sort of much more of the focus here in the deeper South, was that DARE program and all of that crap.
Yeah. Same here in
but-
Utah, very much pushing even
Yeah.
into
Oh,
the,
yes.
the 90s and yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. In Utah, I'm surprised you guys can do anything in Utah.
They have shackles around our legs. You just can't see them right now.
Dude, it's a big surprise for most people when they come here. They're like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Just
It's
bunch of
not everybody is
polygamists and-
wearing bonnets and blue dresses.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Mine's in the closet. That's like weekend attire.
Yeah, for real. So, it's not much different than the South here. There, people think when you come here, it's, the KKK is running around still. I still get those
Right.
kind of like, y'all are still half-ass, backwards, buck teeth or no teeth, kind of like, no, we're all from Atlanta is sort of the New York of the South. It's where it's the melting pot of the South. Everybody is from everywhere. So anyway, I saw it, normalized as a very young child. And then in high school, it kind of went away until I was about 16 or 17 years old. And of course, you're sneaking around with your friends and stuff, but it's still very much quiet. You don't know if your parents are smoking. You don't know if your parents' friends are smoking for the most part. You know what I mean? So it was hidden. And then, of course, in college in the 90s, I went to school in 93. That's when it really blew up, where we had much more of the cultures in your face with hip hop coming on board and Snoop Dogg and we had
Tupac, Dr. Dre, all of them were talking about like smoking
Biggie,
weed. Yeah.
Absolutely. Wu-Tang, so Outkast. And so you had hip hop sort of really push the culture forward in the 90s, I believe. And that kind of made the snowball start, I think is how it really began. In the 90s, I think hip hop kind of pushed us forward as far as consumption and normalizing it more and more. Yeah. It sort of went, so really it kind of went from our farmers to our hippie culture to, more or less hip hop culture. And that pushed us forward. And really since the 2000s, I think you've seen a really large concerted effort from a lot of different, special groups to help cannabis, further help push it into society and norms of consumption. So, it's been a roller coaster, so to speak, as far as the differences from decade to decade when it comes to consumption. And we're now in a place where I see, super conservative people here in this state where it's not legal, by the way. We don't have legal cannabis in Georgia. It is decriminalized in the city where I live, Atlanta. But we have extremely conservative people who are consuming. They do it much more discreetly. wouldn't be one to sit here and smoke a joint with me, right? Like I have
Yeah.
been with you all, but they would be one that maybe after their work, they go to the kitchen, they grab their gummy, or they grab
Right.
their beverage or
Yeah.
their beverage enhancer or whatever. And it's one of those things. And that's another thing. It's my consumption, the modalities over the last few years have changed significantly for me. So even though I smoke a lot still, I'm now at a place where I have access to water soluble THC drops, basically.
Mhm.
And really, it's more of a full spectrum product than that, but that's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
So I'm able to make any drink, water, tea, liquor, beer. I don't give a shit what it
Into an
is.
infused.
Dude.
Into an infused, exactly, into an infused cannabis drink, excuse me, which is, it's sort of game changing because I don't necessarily need to walk around or take a break from whatever I'm doing to go smoke somewhere. If in fact I have to do that, if I'm in a place where I can't consume,
Yeah.
I just have a very discreet bottle where I'm like, okay, oh, you guys are out here drinking. I don't really want any liquor today. So I'm going to have this water and I'm going to infuse it myself. So it changes the game a little bit. And so my modalities have changed a little bit. You know, I'm always still a smoker. So bong rips and joints and stuff like that kind of please my heart.
It's hard not to love that method of like combustion and flower. Like
I agree.
it's hard to
It's the
beat.
cleanest flavor, man. I mean, it's
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about it all the time, you know, like if you puff on carts regularly and there's a ceiling you hit, you just
Yeah.
can't go past it. It's like, nope, it's like a little governor on your engine going, yeah, dude. I mean, it's awesome, it's close, but not
Tops
all
out
the
of the-
way.
It's to maintain, right? It's
Right.
to maintain travel, and it's for the convenience of it. So if you're
Exactly.
sitting at a bar or whatever, you can rip your fucking pen and no one gives a shit. You sure as hell can't light up a joint, but no one really cares if you have a pen. They don't know if it's what it is anyway. You know,
Yeah.
they don't know if it's tobacco or THC or whatever the hell it is. So that's more of what pens do for me, or where cartridges do for me.
Same.
I tend to not. I don't have a single cartridge. I haven't had a cartridge in probably 6 months in this house.
That's awesome.
So mostly what I do is consume flour, period, and then I have my drops for my drinks. That's kind of what I do.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. What's the name of the product, and where do you mean you get it over there locally, or?
No, so I have a buddy. Let's just say that. He you might know him. You might be connected to him. His name's Blake Vila. He is on LinkedIn. Quick Liquids is the company that is with. They make quick drops. I met him in person for the first. So I've been connected to him for probably about a year or so, maybe a little more. I met him for the first time at MJ Biz. Super fucking rad dude. Really supportive.
You said
really
it's Blake,
nice.
what?
Villa, Villa.
Okay. I'm gonna save that for later. Cool.
Very cool dude. And we are currently working with him to figure out some possible business opportunities with his product, because it's fucking badass, you guys. It kicks in, and I mean kicks in within like 10 minutes or so. That's
fast.
It's not a regular cannabis beverage. It's where you're waiting 20, 30,
Do you know
40
the
minutes.
dosing? Is it per is it in a 30 milliliter dropper bottle? Or is
it's in it here. I'll grab the container
Okay.
for you real quick.
Or is it more like a powder? Yeah, I've seen.
No, it's a liquid.
Okay. I was like, I've seen some really cool sugars and that. I've actually made infused sugar before.
Yeah.
And that's really
yeah,
easy to do in.
I actually have a thing of infused sugar at this point. So what it is this water soluble. They have the tech that makes this stuff. And when I say water soluble, I mean it. I mean, you can stir it into anything. It's fantastic.
That's awesome.
And this is the bottle itself.
Oh, yeah, that's not that big.
So no, it's about a two.
That's way
It's
cool.
about 2 ounces or so.
Okay.
And the dropper itself, you can control the amount of drops. It's, a kind of a built-in dropper. There's 1,000 milligrams of THC in this little tiny bottle. 1,000.
That's fantastic. So how
So
many does it
it's
break down per drop?
One drop is 1 milligram.
Oh, okay. Dude,
So
that's fantastic.
It's phenomenal. It's
Perfect
one
for
of the
microdosing too, for people who want to
Dude.
get like exact dosing.
dude, it's perfect for medication, like
Yes.
medical application.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
perfect for people in the hospital. It's perfect for people in an old folks home or whatever you call those things these days. I'm sorry if that's
Assisted living
disrespectful.
centers. I have no
Assisted
idea.
living. Yep, absolutely. This is something you can take with you anywhere, have in anything. And like I said, it kicks in within 10 to 15 minutes at the most, dude.
That's
And it
nuts.
is, and it's strong. So I've been sort of dosing myself, so to speak, since I've had it for the past couple of weeks to really get a gauge on the product, test the product out, make
Yeah.
sure it's exactly what I want it to be and what it should be and what it says it is.
Mhm.
And it is, man. It's pretty badass. I've been impressed with it, to be honest with you. And
That's
then
fantastic. We'll have that in the show notes. We'll put that link for that.
awesome. Have y'all ever seen the heavy hitters tincture?
No.
No.
What is that?
So this is 1,000 milligram tincture. It looks like liquor.
Okay.
And it's really, really good. I know you can't see inside the bottle or anything, but
Looks
it's
like
just
a
like a
liquor
liquor
bottle.
bottle. It's
Dude, that
phenomenal.
looks so kick-ass.
Dude, it smells amazing. It tastes amazing. It has like a citrusy, earthy flavor to it.
Oh,
You'll have
wow.
to send us the link. We'll throw that.
Dude,
It's dope. So Heavy Hitters is what it's called. They're
I've heard
they're
of them.
everywhere. They're
Mhm.
everywhere. They're on
Yep.
LinkedIn. They're on Instagram. They're all over the place. They've been around for a minute. From what I've been told, so Blake was nice enough to. I've been looking for a Heavy Hitters bottle for a while. Blake was nice enough to give me one as well. So that was really cool of him. But from what I've been told, because California is changing some of their laws for the new year, this will no longer be available. I'm not quite sure why. I don't know if it's because of the amount of THC, the 1,000 milligrams, or whatever in such a sized bottle, or whatever the case may be. I don't know what it is, what those new regs are that are making this specific bottle, I believe, go away. But that's what I've been told. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I've been told. So if you can get your hands on a Heavy Hitters bottle,
Get it as soon as possible. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yep.
Man.
Those are okay. So now we got to add. So what's some of the coolest things that you've seen lately within not only just the products, but in maybe even the cultivar area?
So those are great questions. That's a great question. And I have a couple of answers actually. So that's really cool.
Cool.
Shango. I went to Shango in Phoenix. If you aren't familiar with Shango, they are a fully integrated company. They would be an MSO, really. They have operations in 5 states, I believe. They are growing some things that I've never in my life thought were possible. The smell, the nose on some of the cultivars that they are currently growing, insane papaya, no, not insane papaya, insane plantain.
Oh.
I stuck my head in a 5-pound bag of this stuff to get a good whiff of it when I was there.
Mhm.
And I've never smelled something that made my mouth water like that. And it was this really earthy, edible. It made me want to like pick it up and eat it. It wasn't really citrusy.
Yeah.
It's hard to put the words to what I was experiencing. But that, I think it's called insane plantain. They also have something called modified banana, which I had never seen before, which was really cool. Extremely flavorful, really bright notes.
Does it smell a lot like bananas?
Not necessarily. Again, it's more of that earthy. I have this earthy thing stuck in my head since I went there. Was it last week or the week before? So Not necessarily. Well, I tell you what did smell like banana, so I lie.
Oh,
They were making live rosin
Sick
with
fuck.
what?
they were making live rosin with it,
That
and
sounds
I was
delicious.
I was
Oh,
like,
that's
holy!
where
It
you
was
get the
so
terps, huh?
concentrated. Yeah. Oh, dude, the terps were so concentrated. It was sick. So, um, those are a couple of cool cultivars that I've run into, and I'm actually smoking one along with this Georgia pie that came from them called sour garlic cookies. And again, it was. I keep, and I think
Is
that's
that
where
like
this.
a line within GMO somehow?
I honestly
Or
don't know
process?
exactly the lineage of it, to be honest with you. That would be one for Daniel Crawford to answer. I don't know if you know who Daniel Crawford is. So
No.
Yeah.
he's one of the Three Good Buds. So I also run a company or own a company called Three Good Buds. I'm the CEO of. Daniel Crawford is the COO, and Aaron Weiss is the CMO. And that's what we were doing in Phoenix. Was we went down there as a company to tour Shango and talk business and stuff like that. So
That's
Wow.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
Three Good Buds is like seems like a very good cannabis community. Tell us a little bit more kind of about that.
yeah, absolutely, and that's exactly what it is. So you nailed it. We've built this company as a community first. It was to provide a space for people to look. All of us have been sort of isolated for over the past few years, right? Things changed. Let's just be honest. It's not any secret. And we also have a lot of not so much outgoing people, we introverted folks, right? Introverted people need to have a space to connect with people in ways that sometimes are more comfortable for them.
Mm-hmm.
So really the company came about back in May of this year because May is mental health month. And I thought of the saying, sesh with friends. It's important because I was checking up on some of my friends. I was talking to a couple of friends that were going through some hard times, and it all kind of coincided. And I was like, I need to go see my friends. I need to go check up on my friends, and seshing with my friends. It's important. Kind of came about. So we created Three Good Buds because the three of us got on the initial platform together to smoke. So we were smoking together. We were creating a small community. It was just three of us seshing together. One of them's in Arizona, the other one's in Virginia, and I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. So we connected that way, and we were like, well, why don't we just do this? And we created Three Good Buds. Since then, and it sounds kind of ridiculous, since then, we've created a community and hold these live sessions where tons of people come on, they smoke with us. We introduce really cool people to them that are doing cool things in the industry. Like Kristen Yoder talked about Bud for Blood. We had David Tran on, talked about what he was doing with Fairchild. We always have, so to really bring value to just your normal, average, everyday consumer like you and I, or a person in the industry, that might be looking for a job or something new to do, trying to grow their network or connections or whatever. We always have special guests. That list will always contain recruiters, because having a recruiter that you can see face to face while you're smoking and you're comfortable, right? It breaks down barriers.
Yeah.
It breaks down those barriers
Totally.
that a lot of us, when we're looking for work or we're looking for someone to help us find work or our next gig or whatever, when you see that person on the other side of your screen and everybody around them is fucking smoking, we're talking cannabis, and it creates this comfort level for a job seeker that just doesn't exist anywhere else. And I thought, dude, that is so fucking important. Let's continue to do that. So we continued to do that. As it evolved, we've created a community where people are very uplifting, trusting, and helpful and supportive of each other. We have a couple of channels on Telegram where people come in, we share videos, photos, talk back and forth, tell everybody good morning, say what's up. We have a job channel on Telegram as well, where we share jobs pretty much every single day. So people have joined that Telegram channel so they can see all sorts of jobs from all kinds of different companies within the industry. And it's us kind of stealing as much as we can from online and posting it in one place and being like, here you go, check this fucking job out. You're in New York, here's 5 right here. So trying to bring value to the community. So to the cannabis community. So that's what we did with Three Good Buds. And in doing so, we have now created partners that have brought us in, and they are trusting us to help build out training SOPs, basically. So we're going into, we've partnered up with a company called Black Thumb. They're out of Australia. They are doing some really cool stuff with their software for both grow and post-production, and getting it in a way that is in one place. It can do everything you need, track everything that needs to be tracked. It's really a sort of this one-stop shop for running.
Is it from like seed to sale, or is it?
Bingo.
Okay.
So it's basically your one-stop shop for everything that your grow and your production, your post-production needs. So they've partnered with us, or we've partnered with them to be their training arm here in the US. There's also another company that's joining them called Weeds. They're in New Mexico, but basically Three Good Buds is going to be doing most of the US. And we're going to be training grow and post-production businesses, companies, to use this software so they can improve what it is that they're doing. So it's developed, Three Good Buds is developed because we came in here with the idea to help, period. We just wanted to fucking help. I just wanted to smoke with cool people, connect with cool people, and just talk about cannabis. And it's developed into something to where we now get to introduce people to really cool stuff that's going on in the industry, like Bud for Blood, like Fairchild. There's other things that are going on as well. So it's been a really cool opportunity to build with those two, and it's turning into something much more than I thought I thought it would, and becoming sort of referral partners and actual training arms for companies, because we have the understanding of cannabis. Daniel working with Shango, they're fully integrated. He's in that facility all day long, understands its needs, where it has its pain points. And having him sort of being able to plug in the software and completely understand how it can help is everything. So, we're going to be able to make a big difference in this industry by helping with that portion, with some technology and software portions. So we're pretty excited to do that, man.
That's way cool.
That's so
How
cool.
often do you do the Three Good Buds smoke sessions?
Once a month. We did one. So our last one was at MJ Biz. It was relatively huge.
Yeah,
Cool.
I bet.
Yeah, it was actually really cool. We had a ton of people show up. It ended up being all over LinkedIn and all over social media. And it was a really big kind of like family get together, to be honest with you. Guys, I just realized it's 4:00 and I have a hard stop.
You're good, man.
You're good.
We is there anywhere that you need, or anywhere people can find your stuff, anywhere that you want to plug real fast?
Yeah, absolutely. So of course, Dustin Hoxworth on LinkedIn, Fat Nugs Magazine on LinkedIn, fatnugsmag.com is our website. Instagram is fat_nugs_mag. So yeah, Instagram,
And that'll
LinkedIn,
all be in the show notes.
Awesome.
Cool.
Definitely appreciate
Awesome.
it. That's pretty much everywhere. And I try to make myself available to as many people as possible. So feel free to reach out. You can always DM me on LinkedIn. I kind of live there at times. So yeah, I love to connect with folks. So if anybody wants to connect, I'm always open.
Yeah, badass. Thank you so much, Dustin, for joining us. Everybody, again, you'll get all the show notes over there. Brother, thank you for doing what you're doing.
Appreciate your time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man.
Thank you guys. Y'all
Take
have a great
care.
afternoon.
You
Talk
as
soon.
well.